What's up guys, this is episode 4 of our Real Talk Mobility series. Today we're talking in particular about upper body mobility. If you haven't checked out the lower body mobility or the previous videos, go and check them out now and I'll see you back here. We're just going to go through 5 exercises today just for that upper body mobility, in particular our wrists, elbows, shoulders, and then into some thoracic and lumbar areas. So getting a lot of questions just to being asked on how can I gain a bit more control in my shoulders and in particular that upper back. So for a lot of us, if we're sitting in a desk most of the days, you'll find that you get a little bit of that rounded spine and it can get a bit tight, and if we don't move it, obviously it's going to get a little bit tighter, gets limited in that range of what's available to it, which can start to give us those little bits of aches and pains. With that being said, we'll dive straight into it. The first thing I'm going to show you is wrists, and just a very simple exercise. What you're looking to do here is just going to work on the flexion of our wrists, so it gets into the forearms. They can get relatively tight, if you do a lot of handstands or rock climbing or anything like that. So all you do here is you just place your hand on the floor. We're going to have our palm facing up for this, and I want you to unlock that elbow. Now you're going to make a fist as tight as you can, and in particular you're going to make sure that index finger stays in nice and tight. So we'll use the other hand just to lock that in, and then what I want you to do is just try to straighten the arm, or at least go to where you feel like you're getting a bit of a stretch. If you're new to this, it can be quite intense. So what I would do is just little pulses in that particular position. But as I said, if you can lock it out, you're going to fully lock it out. Then from there, you can just start to shift your weight from side to side. And what that'll do now is just give you a nice good stretch along the back of the hand, and for some of us, it might even stem up into the forearms. I would usually hold this position for about 40 seconds or so. Again, if you're new to it, we try to build up to that 40 seconds. You can also then start to work some contractions here. And what I mean by a contraction is that I'll keep tension in the arm. I'll then try to push my knuckles down into the mat here. So I'm going to try to push that hand down as much as I can. Then after 10 seconds, what you'll try to do is you'll try to pull the knuckles here up towards the forearm. So as if you were trying to make that fist even tighter. If you want a bit more of a challenge, what you can do is make sure that arm stays fully locked out, pull that up towards the forearm, and then try to lift it off the floor without losing that position. And as I said before, if you're not used to this, it can be quite intense, can even be challenging just to get that arm straight. So find where your starting point is, and that's where I'd like you to work from. That being said, we're now going to move up to our elbows next. So what I usually do here is I grab myself a nice little band. This one's relatively light, just for demonstration purposes. All I want you to do, place your wrists in between the bands. Now, just in terms of space, I usually do this up on my knees so that my hands won't obviously touch the floor. So what I'll do here is I'm going to turn my palms to face the camera, so facing away from my body. I'm going to pull the bands a little bit, so now they're under a bit of resistance. And all you're going to do from here is you're going to think of pulling the arms up. I'm keeping an open palm, and the reason why I'm doing that is because I want to engage this area of my arm rather than this area. So I'll think of pulling from my biceps to bring my hands up as high as they can, so I really squeeze up. Then I'm going to rotate as much as possible. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to think as if I was pushing my hands through sand. So I'm keeping tension as I push down. And then I rotate and I pull back up. And I would just continue this usually for time. So I find 30 seconds is a good starting point. After I've done 30 seconds, I do the opposite. So I keep my palms facing towards me this time. I pull up as high as I can. I rotate, and I keep rotating till I hit a roadblock, so I can't go anymore. And then again, I'm pushing down through that sand to bring me down. The next thing that I would like to work on is shoulder health. I like to get into the capsule itself, and how I usually do this is just grab myself a bit of resistance. So, again, be mindful if you haven't been doing this kind of exercise. Start relatively light. 1-2 kilos can be quite heavy on this, especially if we haven't really worked on those rotator cuff muscles. So what I do here, I just sit down onto my hips. I can use a block just to keep me upright, like so. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to place my elbow onto my knee. I'm going to start with 90 degrees. So this is the 90 degrees here, so as you can see. And then I'm going to allow this wrist to lower down. And I only allow it to lower down as low as it can go once the movement is still coming from the shoulder. And so what I mean by that is, if I get to here and then I find that I'm actually just rolling my shoulder forward, well, now I'm not really getting the benefit of the exercise. So what you're actually trying to do is the humerus, so upper arm, shoulder capsule, you're trying to get that to glide around there. So we really only lower down as low as you can go before you feel that shoulder want to drop forward. So the best way to do this, grab your weight, place it up on top of the knee. From here, this area here, which we call our serratus and our lats, you're going to pull them down to keep the shoulder set into place, and it builds a little bit of tension here. From there, I'm going to lower my wrist down towards the floor, making sure the shoulder stays in the same position. So it's only my arm rotating in my shoulder, and then I pull from here, so keep that tension to allow the weight to come back up, and then I lower back down. And I like to do these controlled, so I always think of like a 3-second negative coming down, maybe a 2 seconds going back up. Usually aim for 10 reps, and then we just bring ourselves over to the other side and we do the same thing. So that's the shoulders. The next thing I want to go through is just our thoracic mobility, and in particular just a little bit of rotation, mainly because I was asked to do this, but it is a nice little drill. I find this really good. It'll also bring the shoulders into play a little bit. So we have a block, we bring ourselves close to the wall. And then what you're going to do with the block just stays in against the wall between yourself and your hips. And what that'll do is just be a little bit stricter in the movement itself. So I come down onto my knees. I'll just bring that mat over. So I come down onto my knees, and then all you're going to do is go in as close as feels comfortable. Press in against that block. You come down onto your elbows. And now what I'll do here is, so I'm going to move the arm that's closest to the wall, and I'm going to push the arm out away from me. I'm going to bring it up. I'm going to create a nice circle, try not to touch the wall. I come all the way down, and then I repeat again. So I lean out all the way up. So now what this is testing, it's testing my shoulders, but it's also making me rotate from my spine, and in particular, that thoracic area. So I keep the opposite arm, so my right arm in this instance, in against my knee. I'm sitting down on my heels, and I'm keeping a little bit of tension here, so I lock that base in, and I come all the way up and around. And then I come all the way up and back. And that brings into play, just as I said, shoulders, thoracic, really, really nice exercise. Now from there, we go a little bit more global on our spine. So what I like to do here, and what I mean by global, is working the whole spine together. And you can't go wrong with a cat-cow. So with this one, all you'll do is you set yourself into a quadrupedal position. So I'm on hands and knees. I'm going to push up through my upper back. So I'm really trying to create as much of a humpback as I can. And I'm pushing down evenly from both hands. So I'm driving my hands down through the floor. From here, I'll pull my shoulders down just to be a little bit stricter. I'll breathe out as I try to push up as high as I can. Now we're going to try to start the movement from our hips. So I allow my hips to roll out behind me. Now I think of my belly button going towards the floor. Then I lower my chest down. And then I start to look up towards the ceiling. I reverse my rep. So I tuck my chin. I push up through my upper back. I pull my ribs back down, suck my stomach in, tuck the pelvis, and that brings us back to that starting position. This time we go a little bit faster. So again, just targeting every bit of our spine as we can, and then reversing the rep on each one. So even though they were just a few little quick exercises, what I'm trying to get across here is that we don't really need to overthink the exercises that we choose. We just need to be consistent on those particular exercises. Always just choose, 3 to 5 different types of exercises, and just be consistent with them. That's what I found the best for my own training, and that's what I found the best with a lot of the clients that I teach. So give them a try. Pop in the comments if you have other issues that you would like a couple of videos on. As I said before, more than happy to help. That's the purpose of this channel. And yeah, that kind of wraps up our Real Talk series, as I said. So if you didn't check out the earlier videos, go and check them out. I think you'll get a lot of benefit from watching these videos and get a lot of knowledge that I've collected over the years. So as I said, if you do have any comments, just pop them down below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can.